Alexander Isak has released a shocking statement. We're going to break down why this is huge news for Liverpool in their pursuit of what could be the most expensive transfer in the history of Premier League football. It's just getting juicier. This feels like Liverpool are in a really strong position to sign Isak. He's come out today and criticised the club in an official statement. When do you ever see this happen? This serious drama, it's seriously heating up right now. Alexander Isak. We're going to break down what he said and where this leaves Liverpool and the transfer. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and obviously leave your comments down below. Keen to hear your thoughts on this because we don't see it very often. Yes, players want to make a transfer. They want to leave clubs. It happens all the time in football. But to this standard, to this caliber, this is probably the biggest news story in world football. This is Alexander Isak coming out and publicly criticising his club and saying big bold statements that could really affect his relationship with Newcastle and really maybe drive the transfer forward to Liverpool within the next couple of weeks. Logistically tricky, of course. Lots of money needed to be fronted by Liverpool because Newcastle have got him under contract for many, many years. But let's be real, it feels like it's getting a lot closer tonight. This statement is crazy, really. The reality is that promises were made and the club has known my position for a long time. To now act as if these issues are only emerging is misleading. This is big stuff. When promises are broken and trust is lost, the relationship can't continue. Sounds like an Oasis song, or it sounds like lyrics to a song. This is poetic stuff. That's where things are for me right now. And why change is in the best interest of everyone, not just myself. And he signs it, Alexander Isak. I can't think of a time where a player of this caliber has come out publicly using social media to move clubs, to potentially garner a transfer that could be the biggest in the history of Premier League football, one of the biggest in the history of football. Wayne Rooney kicked up a fuss many years ago. He got a brand new contract out of it. I never felt like he wanted to leave. You think, you know, Tevez maybe down tools at points under Mancini. He wasn't really trying to make a move, but you can't really think of too many examples in the Premier League of big footballers making statements like this against the club, particularly when they've got so many years left on their contract. It's massive news. You think about maybe Wayne Rooney kicking up a fuss to leave. You think about maybe Cristiano Ronaldo going to Real Madrid. I'm sure it's happened many times, but this kind of public statement is very dramatic, and you feel that maybe he's put it out there to at least clear his name. Maybe things were different behind closed doors. Maybe Newcastle United said that if you hit these kind of goals, if you help us win a trophy, if you help us get back into the Champions League, which obviously he did, 23 league goals last season, a huge one in the League Cup final against Liverpool last season, of course, then maybe there were informal things behind closed doors where the ownership at Newcastle United suggested to Isak that they'd accept any kind of bid in a reasonable kind of way, not a lowball bid, but any kind of reasonable bid, and they'd let him go. And maybe that's the kind of agreement that he was referring to in the statement. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Newcastle United don't feel that £120 million is what reportedly has been offered from Liverpool is a justifiable amount based on the fact that he's one of the best footballers in the world. Defensive midfielders that barely score goals are going for £100 million, who are less proven than Isak. So surely Newcastle United are looking for that £150 million. We'll break that down a little bit later in the video, but we have to pick up on some key phrases. Promises were made. So again, going back to that idea that maybe Newcastle United, it doesn't appear very rigorous in the contract. I doubt there's anything in the contract that says he had to be, any bid had to be accepted from Liverpool. Some players have had that, actually. Michael Owen famously had it at Newcastle United that he could leave to join Liverpool in his contract when he was at Newcastle United. Very different circumstances, of course. Is he referring to something in his contract that's not being abided to? That would be a massive statement. And ultimately, he used the word misleading, which these are, it's kind of a slanderous thing to say about a football club, about a legal entity, a business like Newcastle United. They're big statements. They really are. Trust is lost, which is a staggering thing to say when you've just come off the back of getting Newcastle United back into the Champions League. Newcastle United have come in and put a lot of hope, a lot of money into your pocket. A lot of trust has been given from Newcastle United, from the project, the PIF project, whether you like it or not, from Eddie Howe into a relatively young striker from Real Sociedad. Trust has been put into Alexander Isak, he's saying trust has now been lost on his side. That's, again, a very dramatic thing. Unless there's something I'm misreading in terms of what's been said behind closed doors. I think that's the largest thing you're going to take from this statement, that he's implying there's some big things that have been promised to him that haven't been delivered this transfer window. Maybe it's about players coming in to support Isak. Maybe it's about seeing a squad overhaul and more quality being brought in. Maybe that's what he feels like let down by, and now he wants to leave because of that. I'm just reading between the lines, but it feels to me that he's talking about trust being lost because he was promised a move that is so far not materialized. The relationship cannot continue. Wow, that is huge. He's refusing to play football. He's got 3 years left. There's Champions League football on the line. There are games that you need to play at this stage in your career where you can't just sit on the bench. You can't just refuse to play. I mean, the closest I can think of it is almost when Roberto Mancini froze Tevez out for refusing to come off the bench against Bayern Munich. Very different situations. And he spent 6 months playing golf in Argentina, went overweight. I mean, Isak's not that kind of footballer. Is he really not going to turn his back on playing football at the highest level? Really? Unless a huge... It's almost like a world record bid. I mean, we never see £150 million in the Premier League. And by the way, we're saying £150 million. Does Isak know that Newcastle would accept that? They're in their rights to ask for £200 million based on today's market. I know it's an absurd amount of money. If it's 1 year left on his contract, then yes, £150 million is probably a steep ask. It's around the £100 million mark. I think that's fair. But he's got 3 years left on his contract. Newcastle United could just sit there on the contract. They don't have to let him go for anything less than he's valued at. He's got a lot of time left on the contract. That's just my opinion. So when you say that the relationship cannot continue, he's hoping by saying that Liverpool will come in for a bid. We don't even know. By the way, I'm not saying the transfer's not going to happen because I feel like it's going to happen. We'll talk about that in a minute. But we don't know if it's... Why is it not £165 million? It could be more. It could be £175 million. We don't quite know. That's the only threat that I see from this statement from Alexander Isak, that we actually... he's saying some big statements while Newcastle United can just hold him to ransom, particularly with how rich the owners are. Let's just look at it from Liverpool's perspective. They're seeing a player come out and say he's unhappy at the club. He's refusing to basically, at the moment, to play. Didn't play against Aston Villa in a goalless draw on the weekend. That is a massive impetus for Liverpool to come in. They've got PSR completely nailed. They've made a massive amount of money on the likes of Quansah, on Diaz, on Nunes. They've got big space in the squad, unfortunately, because of Jota as well. You feel it's just Gakpo, Ekitike, maybe Chiesa stays. They've definitely got at least 150, 160, 170 million pounds to play with, 100%. From everything I've read and understood about Liverpool's PSR situation, it wouldn't be the most egregious thing in the world. It would be if they spent that last summer, but they haven't. And they can actually go again and complement the likes of Salah, Ekitike, and rebuild their squad in that forward line for the next few years. And obviously at 25 years old, you feel that Isak would be a massive part of that. Liverpool have to move now. They have to make a big move. It's going to be very hard to do it by the end of the transfer window, but it's crazier things have happened. I've seen Robinho come from Real Madrid in like 24 hours. So and that was a British record transfer at the time as well. So crazy things can happen in football, particularly with the money floating about. If Liverpool want to do it, they could do it tonight. Make it an outstanding bid and put massive pressure on Newcastle United to say that actually someone has come in for Isak now, Liverpool. There's a second bid that's improved. It's approaching a cleaner value to what they want. And actually Isak's put a lot of pressure on the club. We can talk about the ethics about it maybe in a different video, but it doesn't sit right with me. I'll be completely real. But on some kind of level, I want to see Isak at the highest level. I want to see Isak at a level slightly above where he is at Newcastle United, with all due respect. Now, Newcastle United fans aren't going to agree with that, and Newcastle United fans are right to sit there and say, well, everything he's ever achieved in his career has been with Newcastle United, really, at the highest level, including playing Champions League football. Why is he treating us this way? And that is a video for a separate day, it really is. But right now, this is massive news for Liverpool. It feels like it gives them a massive open door to come in, maybe even be a bit cheeky and do 140, 130 and see what Newcastle United say. Maybe offer someone like Harvey Elliott. Maybe offer someone like Chiesa. You know, I'm not a transfer specialist in that regard, but maybe they can come in and test the water in a different kind of way and see what happens in that regard. It feels very strong from Isak. It feels like someone's told him to make this move now, to initiate things, and it puts Liverpool in a really strong position because it feels like a tap-in, feels like an open net. And when do you ever get that with a transfer of the caliber of Alexander Isak? Very, very keen to see what you think in the comments down below. Trust is lost. Relationship cannot continue. I've had similar texts from ex-girlfriends. Seriously, this stuff's emotional. Seriously, I can't believe it. But there we go. Alexander Isak, one of the biggest footballers in world football, coming out today with a big, big statement. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you very, very soon.